that having more numbers at higher levels in the tech industry in all companies, because every company is a tech company now, is critically important. So I'm glad you're here. I know some brothers that are still making their way in, but this is a critically important conversation. And so I want to first say, let's give a round of applause to Accenture, who thought enough of this session to sponsor this session, and also to be a sponsor at Blackman Excel. And to that end, I'd like to give us to give a rousing round of applause to Yolanda Friend, Managing Director, North American Inclusion and Diversity at Accenture, who comes to bring remarks on behalf of the company. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, and hello, everyone. Appreciate that introduction, Alfred. As he mentioned, I'm Yolanda Friend, and I lead Inclusion and Diversity for Accenture North America. And it is an honor to be here with all of you today. First, I want to start with a huge thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself and in your career. I know it can be hard with competing priorities. I think we've all felt that, especially with the pressures of family, the economy, our responsibilities in our careers. So thank you for making this time. It really is important to pour into yourself. I think we're all in for a real treat. We have a great panel lined up over here to talk about an honest and transparent and candid conversation about building a career in tech. And this topic is quite relevant for me personally as I move into 19 years at Accenture. It's almost hard to believe. 19 years, and I've really been able to align my career with passion and purpose. And that's a testament to the amount of time that I've spent pouring into this career that I've created. And it really makes a difference to do what we love, and I can honestly say that I do that at Accenture. And one concept that I've anchored to throughout my career, and something that I like to always replay in my head, is this concept and framework called PIE, P-I-E. And the theory is that your career success is based on three elements: performance, image, and exposure. And I love this framework because it looks at what percentage of each category has on your career success. And it still surprises me that the model prescribes that only 10% of your success is linked to your performance. 10%. So where's the other 90? 30% is your image, and that's your personal brand. And then you have an overwhelming 60% related to exposure. And exposure is about who knows you, and they know what you do. And it's a testament to how important it is to build our networks. We all need people in our corner to advocate for us and to shine a light on our abilities and our accomplishments. And that's easier to do when you have a relationship with somebody. And so Accenture really, truly is proud to sponsor this Black Enterprise platform because it has specifically curated the opportunity to cultivate that exposure. The networking and the connections and the relationships formed here will carry all of us into a future that we didn't even know was waiting for us. So again, thank you. I'm really excited for today's panel, and I will hand things over to Javid Lewis, our moderator for today's critical conversation. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending. I know this is the last day of the conference. This is my second year attending Blackman Excel. Last year I attended as a guest. This year I'm lucky enough to be hosting a panel with these gentlemen. Every time I come here I leave so inspired. I like to remember a moment a couple years ago when, I guess it's more than a couple now, but I think we all remember when Obama won that first term. And I was in Manhattan at the time. I was at a party downtown, and I was like, I got to go to Harlem. I want to see people and how people are acting and feeling. And every black man, every black woman I walked by, we did the head nod, and it was just that feeling of excitement. That's how I felt for the past 2 days. I am currently now Director of Social Media at Ticketmaster, which is a role I just started in the last 6 months. Actually, first head of social media the company has ever had, believe it or not. So a large part of my role is sort of defining and redefining the way Ticketmaster shows up and changing some of the narratives you all may have heard. But I'm joined by some wonderful guests today. So I'll introduce the gentlemen, then I'll give them a chance to say something about themselves. So first is Robert Corion, who's a VP of Business Operations at Dell, representing UK as well as Guyana? Grenada, I'm sorry.
And Toronto.
And Toronto.
Right.
I wanted to mention that because we have a very diverse group here today. Next is Alex Gacheche of Meta, representing Kenya.
Kenya, yes.
Yes.
Los Angeles, DC.
Los Angeles and DC.
Ohio, North
Yes.
Carolina, everywhere.
And finally is Andy Tay, who it's almost too complex for me to even get into it, but I mean, who are you representing, Andy? Who would you like to
I'm going to make it up now.
Yeah.
I'm representing Ghana.
Ghana.
My dad is Ghanaian. My mother is Scottish. I was educated in England. I've lived in 15 countries, and I now live in sunny Seattle.
Yes. Yes. So that's just a little bit about us personally. But as I said, I'd just like to give you guys a chance to just talk a little bit more about what you do and what brought you here today. Robert, I'll start with you.
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is my first time at this conference, and I have been blown away with just the opportunity to meet just a diverse group of professional men and engage in just amazing conversations. I wasn't expecting it to be, this transformational for me, but I'm just happy that I came. I'm happy that Dell has sponsored the event, and we've sponsored the event for many years. And my colleagues who are here, and some who couldn't be here, encouraged us to attend and try to get some benefit from it. And I've been, as I said, completely overwhelmed with the opportunity. As you said, I run the business operations in our client service group, which is about a $65 billion business. My responsibilities is vast. It's not like engineering specifically, but it's regulatory compliance, quality, data operations. It's as you can expect, an operations organization. I've been at Dell now for 2 years. I spent the previous 25 plus years in different organizations, which we'll talk about at some point today.
Thank you. Alex?
Alex Gacheche, dad to 3 boys. My son is actually here, 21. He's looking for opportunity. And this is the first time I'm coming to this, and it feels good. It feels empowering. I was telling Alfred, I'm usually in the corporate office, and for some reason, there's a week that I walked around, I didn't see any of us. The third week, I saw some guy he was coming in from England, from a different office. I was like, you're my buddy for the next couple of days. So my great opportunity here is to demystify the roles that are in tech. And then number 2, if it's possible for me to hold a hand or 2 or many, I can be able to do that as well. I've been at Meta for 3 years. My responsibilities are, a lot of people, when you say Meta, people get antsy. So AI, the new AI that's coming up. Number 2, everything to do with cybersecurity. So securing your data. And then number 3 is the technology infrastructure that you have across. So the data centers, the servers, the data stores, to make sure at least we're secure. Excited to be here. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more about my background and expand on some of the experiences that I've had.
Andy?
Yeah, thanks, Javid. It's absolutely fantastic being here. I've always wanted to come. It's my first one. But when you're out in Seattle, everybody forgets about you. No, it's superb to be being here. I lead up in Accenture our cloud business. So that's across all the various clouds. And essentially the role is combining what we as Accenture do, be it on the strategy side of consulting, technology, or ops, with the capabilities of the cloud houses, also the hybrids like Dell and Team, and taking that forward to our joint clients. So obviously it's a sizable business. AI is also at the fore when you think of all the AI that's powering all the new experiences. And so I've just taken on that role in September. I'm a month in, but I've been with Accenture for the last 25 years. I think for me, when I think of this conference, I'm just super excited to be here. One thing that's dawned on me and we picked it up even at a conference I was at last week in DC, was you can't be what you can't see. And that saying for me sort of hit home last week. And I think that's kind of what I'm now maybe trying to do as I go to some of these, is maybe be what I could never see. Be it in the UK when I was there, or in the south of France, or in Seattle. So giving it a go, and absolutely fantastic being here, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Great. So now that you've met all our panelists, Andy, I'll start with you with our first question. So we've talked a little bit about this, but there's a great Steve Jobs quote. You can only connect the dots looking back. You can't really connect the dots looking forward. As you think about your career, as you think about the path that you've taken to get where you are today, is there a specific moment that comes to mind for you that sort of changed your trajectory and led you on this path?
Yeah, thanks, Javid. I'm glad you asked that. It's an absolutely fantastic question. I don't know if for me there was one moment. I think there have been a series of moments. And I think, if I think of when I went into tech, I went in without even a degree in tech. And I went and moved to the south of France from the UK, so that's sort of move number one. And you're thrown in and you have to learn how to program. And so you sort of, oh my gosh, what's this? It's a new language. And you give it a go, and you just have to keep applying yourself. And then you sort of get to a point where you move back to the UK for personal reasons, and then you get to another point where you move to Seattle, and you're now mixing it with the Microsofts or the Amazons, and you're now in the heart of some of the world's leading engineers. And with each of those moments, you can sort of buckle under the pressure of dealing with world-class engineers who've lived and breathed it, or you can just sort of be humble enough and just take it day by day, learn something from everybody, and keep going. So that's the first thing for me. It's a series of moments. I think the second thing, in terms of the Steve Jobs quote on you can only connect dots looking back, I won't challenge the guy. But I will say that for me, I found getting to where I am now, I've almost had to be very intentional in looking at the dots ahead of me, and saying, I'm here today, I want to be there tomorrow, what do I need to do to get there? Really understanding that, sharing it with somebody boldly, vulnerably, they'll look at you and go, you'll never make that. But you then break it down in series, and you can get there. And then the third thing is there are sort of lived moments that I've had, which I can take good experience from, and it sort of gets me from role to role, and you're boldly leaning in and trusting in yourself. But you can also take good experience from lived moments and lived experiences that other people have had. As an example, someone said to me the other day, Andy, I used to think I was really, really good. And so I set about trying to change the world. And now I'm kind of wiser, and I'm focused on changing myself. And so that for me was sort of a humbling thing again, just to sort of say to yourself, focus on how you can improve. And I think if I look back, Javid, it's been just constant pushing of yourself to be better and better and better. And sometimes there's a black guy there that you can get inspired from, and sometimes there isn't, and you just have to believe that maybe you're going to be that guy and just keep pushing.
Thank you. Alex, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, that's profound. So I was born and raised in Kenya, small town on the slopes of Mount Kenya. I can't run. I don't do marathons. A lot of people think. But I was very inquisitive, and there was a sense of community that was impacted on me. So when Meta called, and I asked them, what's your mission? And they said, our mission is to build technology that builds community. I was like, I'm in. So today I get a chance, my team gets a chance to impact more than 4 billion people around the world every single day. So there goes the whole passion idea. There goes, being able to mirror it with some of what you're looking at from your background perspective. So it's been great. Series of events along the way that have brought me here, but just always being very inquisitive and always connecting with people at the people level. We all have insecurities, we all have build-ups. I remember I was talking to Javid, and we were having a conversation, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm really worried about my son. Is he going to get a job again, that he wants? Is he going to be prepared for the world? And he said, that's interesting that everyone worries about the same thing. So having that human level connection helps a lot. Yeah. And just being very inquisitive. What do you do for a living? What makes you tick? Just having those moments, I think, helps a lot. And driven by passion, again, and purpose. If you look at what you're looking at, if it empowers and engages you every single day, I feel good. If I know your data is secure, I'm on the third line. I'm on internal audit, so I'm making sure everyone is doing the right thing. So it empowers me, it engages me as well. So looking forward, one of the things that I'll do is make sure I demystify what we do as a company. Number one, there's so many things that you can do on the product side. A lot of people are telling their stories. There's someone on my team who makes $4,000 a month. Cat videos. It's a POV, cat videos. That's one way that you can be able to do that. On the corporate side, a lot of people think of these tech companies as focused on just engineers doing this. We're just a regular company just like everybody else. So my role is to make sure I can be able to demystify that for you.
Yeah, no, I love that, Alex. And I think I'll give you an opportunity to speak to that too, Robert. But as you look at all of the panelists here, it's clear that we all work in different functions in tech. So when people think of tech, you may think of engineers. But I'm a social media expert. I don't know how to code, but I've worked at Twitter. I've worked at large tech companies, and I've been able to work in these environments without having that traditional experience that people think of when they think of what I need to do to work in a tech company. So Robert, what's that moment for you as you look back? When was that sort of click, or was it similar to Andy where there were several moments along the way?
No, I can honestly say I've had several moments along the way. But I remember one really significant change that I had to make within myself. It started when, after I graduated from college, I had a couple opportunities. One was in Texas, one was back in Toronto. So naturally, I'm going back to Toronto. What a great city, right? Who wants to leave that city? So I said, yeah, I'm going home. All my friends are there. My family's there. But I also realized that the job that I was offered was not really something that I really wanted to do. And just a little bit of context, my background, my undergrad is in aviation engineering. So the aerospace opportunity was in Houston. I had an opportunity to do CAD for a CAD company in Canada. Now, the CAD company paid twice as much as the aerospace company. So everyone would say, well, shoot, you're going back home, family, and you're making twice the money? Let's make it happen. So I went home. The first week in the job, I realized there's no way I can do this for a living. I realized I was looking at my watch 2 hours into the day, realizing, holy smokes, I got a whole week left. So I said, so I went home and I told my dad, I said, yeah, so all this tuition stuff that we paid, and this great education, I really don't like my job. And in his best Grenadian accent, he said, boy, you're lucky you have a job. You need to get another one. So I decided at that point that I need to really decide who I was and what I wanted to be. And I will say that as you think about who you are as individuals today, tomorrow, it's really important for you to know what's important to you, what you want to do, before your employer can decide for you. Like, you can't allow somebody to decide what you want to do. You have to know within yourself, within your foundation, what makes you happy, what job's going to make you happy, because you could be doing this job for the rest of your life. So at that point, I decided, I'm going to move to Texas and take this job. And so my dad said, well, this is Toronto. There's, Texas is a whole different place, all the stuff that's going on down there. But I said, I'm going to take this risk. I don't have a place to stay. I don't know if I'm going to like this job, but it's in my field. And so I moved to Texas. And I had a good friend of mine who was going to TSU on a tennis scholarship. And he said, hey, you can stay with me until you decide, you find a place or whatever you want to do. And I had about 3 months to figure things out before the job started. So I took the opportunity, stayed with him for a while until I started the job. And what I realized after I started the job was I'd found exactly what I wanted to do. And I was extremely happy about it. And within a year, I met 2 black leaders. One was a director, one was a senior manager, who advocated for me, who gave me opportunities, who allowed me to go back to school to study some software and hardware engineering. And that basically launched my career into a completely different trajectory than I could have ever imagined. So the lesson I learned from that is bet on myself, always. And so since from that point, I've always bet on myself.
Yep.
I've always done the work to bet on myself, because if I don't, no one else will, at all costs.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and I actually want to build on that point. So Robert and I got to spend some time last night on the boat ride. Hopefully some of you got to go on that. It was really nice. And this guy's fearless. He was telling me about some of the chances that he's taken along the way, and some of the ways that he's dealt with obstacles in his career. And I walked away really impressed, so much so that I went to bed this morning, I woke up and I was like, hey, I know we talked about something we were going to talk about today, but I actually want to talk to you more about what you said last night. So just tell us a little bit about that. Like, one, I mean, you've given me some real life examples, but tell everyone here stories that they can learn from.
Okay.
Of, you have an obstacle in front of you, you're presented with a difficult challenge, and you may have to make a decision that maybe only you can sort of see, like, this is the right path. Like.
Yeah. So I'm a person of faith. I grew up in a Christian home, so I believe in faith, and I believe in God, and so for me, I have no fear, because I know something's going to be provided for me at some point. I've done the work. I've put in the work once I've got the opportunity. So in a sense, there's no reason to not be fearless. The example I think you're referring to is I was a senior manager at a consulting company in Texas.
Not Accenture.
Not Accenture.
Just checking that out. I didn't even know where the story was going, but I just wanted to check.
Now, if it was, I would have said it. So not Accenture, but I was a senior manager at a consulting company, and you have metrics and goals, everything that's set out for you. And my manager indicated to me, hey, if you grow this account to X amount, that's the next step for you to get to the next level.
We still have that.
Yes, right? Yes. So when that time came and my review came, there was some reason that they couldn't make it happen. And I said, the revenue's in the account. I'm the person leading the account. Help me understand what the challenge is. They couldn't explain it. So I said, okay, today's my last day. I'm out. Went back to the office, put my stuff in a box, and my team is like, what are you doing? I said, bro, I'm out. I'm not staying here anymore. So where are you going? I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. So I packed up my stuff and I went home. Now I had to go home to my wife and my first son. And so I get home and my wife is home and she's like, you're home early, what's up? I quit today. She's looking around like, what? Like, what happened? So I explained the situation to her and she's like, okay, so well, what's next? I said, let me figure it out. I've got enough contacts. We'll make something happen. 3 days later, they called me back. They said, hey, the managing director called me. He's like, hey, I understand what happened. The client's asking, how can we get this fixed? So we're going to go ahead and meet your objectives and whatnot. And I said, yeah, that was 3 days ago. You need to come with 20% more. Because I know how important I am to the account. I know how the relationship I have with the CIO and the managing team there. And I built that account from a very small place to a pretty large revenue to the business. So they met my terms, and I came back to the office. And everything was smoothed over. I stayed there for many years after that. But again, I had no fear. And I wasn't worried about what tomorrow brought, because you do the things you need to do. You save, you take care of things, you have faith, but you always go to work doing your best work, right? I always took that approach. I learned that from my family, and I expect to be treated fairly. And if I'm not, then I have a decision to make, because if they don't treat you fairly that day, tomorrow, the next day, it's going to come up again. So you got to decide, am I going to make a stand for myself today, or I'm going to allow them to push me over? And I refuse to be that person.
See?
And just to add on that, you can command that type of respect when you're the best at what you do.
Absolutely.
It can be, year one, I'm like, hey, I need to move on to something else. I think you have to build that acumen. And I think that takes a lot of sacrifice and hard work. I think that's sometimes I see a little bit of that in a different generation. My generation, you had to cut your teeth in it. If one of the things that I always do is that I go into any environment and find out what the winning formula is. It's not the same everywhere. In other places in financial services, a little bit more swivel chair type of leadership. I can sit down and delegate. In tech, you have to be in there. Yeah. Regardless of what level it is, you've all seen some of these folks wearing T-shirts and slacks and all of that, because they're in there actually working, coding with everyone else. So I think you have to understand the winning formula in your environment, and then be able to command that type of respect. I think I always want to remind people that.
And Alex, maybe I'll just add a little bit on that as well, because I completely agree. I think in today's society, we run the risk with our youth and sometimes just ourselves that, you want that success very quickly without putting in the hard yards, without putting in the work. And I think, if you look at anybody who's successful, they'll tell you, you got to put in some hard yards, got to prepare, got to do the training, got to build your foundational skill set, and then keep iterating from that. If you get the foundation wrong, it's a bit like a house. It'll always be a bit wobbly. So you've got to get that foundation right. And then you can chip and change things, you can extend your kitchen, you can do all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have that foundation right, it's going to be very difficult. So I think as we I think if I look at what we're all saying, we all started from somewhere different in the industry. You got to be fearless in just starting, and then you got to be fearless in believing and betting on yourself to actually keep going and improving. And maybe I'll just end with that. But you've got to just be prepared and just keep preparing yourself, because the opportunity will come, and if you're unprepared, game over. So you just have to keep prepared.
Can I add on? I think when I think of preparation, you just can't say enough about it. And I look at some examples in nature. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Arctic tern. It's a bird that has one of the longest migration paths. It's like 44,000 miles. It has a breeding ground in the Arctic Circle, and then it travels all the way to Antarctica for winter. And one of the things, if you study that bird, one of the things you'll realize is that 22,000 one-way path is filled with issues and challenges, and what that bird actually does, which I think we need to recognize that we have to do in our careers, is we have to keep the wind at our back, right? We have to stay away from potential dangers, right? Predators, right? We have to think and plan ahead. We have to be perseverant we have to persevere all of the issues that are coming and be prepared and map out a path to the end. And only that, thinking that far ahead is the only way you're going to have a really successful career. You can't wait for something to happen. You need to, as one of my friends says, you need to play chess all the time. You need to think 3-4 steps ahead and not just think about it. Like, using an engineering terms, if you have to root cause analysis or fishbone it. Like, if this, then what? If this, that, you've got to really do that for all circumstances to be prepared. Otherwise, when something happens, you won't know how to react. And you may have an emotional response to it. You may be shocked. You won't have a plan. And you need to have a plan for every potential opportunity and even impacts that may happen as a result of either yourself or anything else around you.
Yep. Yeah. This is such a great conversation. I feel like, maybe we get it moved to day one, Alfred, and get the main stage. We don't want to stop, but I'm going to stop here with the questions. Open the floor up for anyone in the audience who has any questions for the gentleman here.
As the questions are coming, just to add one more thing, is that, sometimes what people see in social media companies, people are wearing slacks. Again, going back to the same point, all birds, hoodies, and you think it's easy, so you're going to take it easy. No, it's not. Yeah. The same, effort that you have to place in corporate America is the same effort that you have to place in social media companies. So just, you know, to level set that, sometimes people get it wrong. Think, oh yeah, this is a place we're going to chill. We're just going to get, you know, a sorbet for afternoon breakfast and take it easy. No, it's not.
Yeah.
The expectations are still the same exact expectations. So true.
For sure. I worked at Twitter, and it was not easy, let's just say. So I'll take some questions, and if you can give questions, quickly introduce yourself. I think we have about 5 minutes, so just try to breeze through quickly.
All right. Good morning. Awesome panel. Thank you so much. Shout out to Grenada. I'm from Trinidad. Shout out to Seattle. I'm based in Seattle. Anthony Cole at Amazon. As you think about the role of AI and its propensity to displace and disrupt the tech field, what are your thoughts on it? Have you guys been thinking about it from a leadership perspective, and how you can leverage it without disrupting roles?
Without disrupting roles?
Yeah.
Like human roles?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Nowadays you got to say, is it a human or not? Yeah, that's a good one. And I think AI is obviously a massive topic, and spans a number of areas, be it responsible AI or whatever it is. But we certainly as Accenture, we're taking a very intentional focus on understanding various aspects of AI and how it impacts various jobs, roles, industries out there. In some cases, like with Amazon, you've got the likes of Code Whisperer, which is almost back in my day when we were programming, there'll be a human pair programmer next to you, sitting next to you, and you're sort of programming together. Now you've got this AI assistant that you can sort of program faster and drive productivity and all of that. You could almost look at that and say, okay, but that means you've replaced a human. Or you could say, actually, that means each developer now can be doubled, and each developer is 30, 40, 50% more productive because you're taking in code that's already pre-built. Now you've got to be careful taking in code into your corporate and make it your own corpus, that sort of thing. But so there's a way of looking at it. Now, of course, I think, let's be real, AI will impact human jobs. I think it's a shift, and just like in anything in life evolves. So we just need to, as good citizens, as good professionals, prepare ourselves, our enterprises, in my case, our clients, but also look to academia and say, what are we as corporations doing to prepare the next generation from displacement? If you look at lawyers, are they going to be needed going forward, or is Gen AI going to be the lawyer in the courtroom? So you got to look at that. And so we're looking at ourselves, our clients, and academia, and just overall institutions.
Rapper/actress, more powerful